Very good. And now we may speak about Dhamma a little bit, listen about Dhamma, or reflect. So, and the maybe area or a topic of discussion I would like to offer that we not so often actually pay attention or emphasize on the drawbacks or maybe limitations, the limitations of some aspect of the Buddha's teaching, some aspect of the Dhamma, or some approach towards the Dhamma. So I don't say that the Dhamma itself have limitations. So it's not what I want to say. But some aspects and some approach towards the Dhamma can have its limitations, have its drawbacks. So why it's important? Why it's important for me? Why it's important for you as a good Buddhist, as a people who try to practice and so on. So maybe to illustrate a little bit this, I want to give you some, kind of background story. So in Russia, it's very popular, especially these days, this movement, they call it Hare Krishna movement. I don't know about Malaysia. So it's like people who dress, not like this, but also not in normal clothes. So it's like orange and white clothes, like some kind of like old style, and they run around the streets and chant Hare Krishna, like dance and chant, blah blah blah. I don't know in Malaysia, is it in KL or somewhere? So long story short, it's come from Hindu tradition, and they kind of spread it all around the world, and it's more like devotional base. So you just believe in God, in Krishna in that case, and like chant and like do other practice, what kind of grow your devotion. So, and apart from this chanting and singing, what they do, they kind of spread the teaching of the religion, or we may say kind of spread the word, or like kind of information in the form of they go from street to street and kind of distribute the books, whatever books they have, like some set of books they distribute, and they officially not sell it, but they distribute books and collect the donation. So it's kind of selling, They don't have a price for book, but they offer a book, and they also mention if you donate something, it would be nice. So, like, and this practice what almost everyone have to do as a proper kind of devotee of the tradition, especially if one who live in temple, dedicate his life for this. So it's kind of daily practice. And sometimes even it can be whole kind of marathon, you go from town to town, and like for whole months you just distribute these books. So, but the way how they do it is just, on the street they approach the strangers and just kind of try to, not sell, try to distribute to him, try to, in a way, try to enforce the interest for him, for some strangers, like who never even care, or, when I was there and I was kind of, it was part of my life for a few months, we like travel for some like very strong Muslim area, and you just come to some Muslim person and try to like feed him this book. So some reactions can be quite aggressive, naturally people kind of in their home, in their religion, and someone else dress like very weird, try to like sell something, try to push something. So, and that method, like I personally seen the very strong limit and very strong disadvantages of that method. When you spread your teaching, when you spread your religion or whatever, if you push these things, naturally people would resist, like without asking, you kind of try to impose this idea, and like of course people have some like aggressive reaction and other things, and your message actually would not be delivered so good as it would be delivered if the person actually come to monk or to temple, Once you come here, you kind of want to listen some Dhamma. Yeah? It's not that they come to your home and, even when we have a practice go from house to house for dana. Monks, Buddhist monks have this practice. But even on that occasion, we not actually preach from house to house. We just come with a bowl, stand, and people who wants to offer, they offer, and we go. Like we go to market Pindichara. We not preach there. We not put a mic and okay, let us everyone listen to the Dhamma, because people there not come for listening to the Dhamma. Yeah, people come for market. For have their breakfast, or maybe buy some grocery and other things. So it's not the time. But another time when people come to monastery, it's a good time to preach. People kind of came for this reason. And like, so in that method where people just come to the street and distribute the books, I saw kind of very strong limitation and drawback. And of course, I'm as a newcomer, I express myself. To some senior person, it can be done differently. It's not so nice, and especially when I experience this for a month, strong aggression on the street. When I try to do this myself, I saw it can be done differently. But the thing is, we all know if people have the kind of strong faith in some method, or they put the religion or faith or even the way how we act on the pedestal, on the altar, and that's it. That's how our teachers do. That's how our tradition do. And who are you to question this? You're just newcomer. Why you want bring your suggestions without being asked, kind of. So, and of course, another explanation would be people with very strong devotions. They say you just think superficially on these things. See more deeply. See more kind of to the source, because actually, when you do this, it's not you doing this. It's a Krishna doing this through you. It's a God doing this with your hand, And you don't know what's happening, The way of God we cannot trace or something like this. So through this action, there are many people can get in touch with this teaching, and don't worry. It's not your job to worry. Your job just to do it. So okay, it's one explanation. I mean, very difficult to argue with people with strong faith, yeah. So, long story short, it's good to be aware of some limitations or drawbacks of any method, of any things what we do, for the purpose, not for the purpose to argue with a teacher or something, but for the purpose to find a better way, find a skillful way to approach, knowing the limitation. We may approach these things, and we may find maybe counterbalance, how to balance this limitation. We know this is a drawback, and this is a advantages, and focus more on advantages and be careful about drawbacks. So it's important to have this information. So, coming back to the Buddhist teaching, finally. So in Anguttara Nikaya we have a sutta. They call it's two suttas together, and they call the great questions, Mahapancha suttas, like first sutta and second suttas about great questions. And this Anguttara Nikaya 10, it speaks about 10 things. And first sutta speak about that there are 10 things which we need to be disenchanted, which we need to let go of, which we need kind of completely eradicate from our experience to get liberated. And the second sutta speak about the opposite, like the 10 things which we need to develop, and which we need to undertake, which we need to understand fully, and we need to understand their limitations. So that's the sutta speak about we need to understand limitations of those good things what we need to develop. And of course, unlikely we go through all these 10, but one thing what they mention, it's 4 satipatthana, 4 establishments of mindfulness. So, and again, these things need to be developed, and these things we need to understand the limitation of these things. So, this is a kind of question to you. What do you think? Is there any limitations in 4 satipatthana, in development of establishment of mindfulness, in mindfulness in general? Some limitations, yeah. Would you like to mention? Okay. So, some what we may kind of consider, maybe you know all of this. We have a very famous book by Sayadaw Utejaniya, and he say awareness alone is not enough. Yeah, and it's like we may say mindfulness alone, sati alone is not enough. Like satipatthana, development of mindfulness, we do it to develop mindfulness naturally from the name. Yeah, and the limitation of the mindfulness, one way to understand it, can be that it's not enough to practice only mindfulness. Like the only mindfulness itself can lead us so far. Like one so to say, like if one develop mindfulness and clear awareness, and the like goal of this or the end result of this development would be strong mindfulness and clear awareness. So to develop mindfulness, you will develop mindfulness. I mean, obviously. But if one want to develop like complete freedom from all suffering, he need to see arising and pass away of five khandhas, or we can say bodily and mental experience. So we need to see how it's arise, how it's pass away. So it's not only mindfulness. It implies some right view here. It implies some like wise reflection, like reflect. They call it Dhamma vichara. Yeah. So reflection of the Dhamma, reflection of the phenomena, investigation of the phenomena. So it's not only mindfulness itself. And very often, especially just recently, was in Bhante Devamitta retreat here in SBS, and very often, not at the beginning of the retreat, but close to the middle and to the end, Bhante, in his guided meditation, very often mentions that don't kind of be lazy in a way, or don't stuck in the bliss and happiness from the samadhi, from the sati. So just being aware of the six senses, just staying with experience, just developing sati, it can create very strong pleasant feelings. Yeah, mind can be bright, mind can be concentrated, focused, and like stable and settled. So it's very peaceful state. It's very rewarding state. Yeah, it's very kind of full of joy. Sometimes can be, and naturally, if you would start to investigate, and Bhante is encouraged to see cause and effect, like how things arise, how things pass away, it will naturally move your mind from this like state of peace, of samadhi, especially at the beginning when person not so skilled in it, and that joy maybe it can change in a way. There can become another joy, but when I already have something, you know, in Russia we have a saying like, better to have small bird in your hand than the big bird in the sky. So what's the point of big bird in the sky? Yeah, it's not belong to you, but small bird in the hand, like it's kind of yours. That's why naturally, when we have something, even a little, we kind of very often hesitate to risk, you know, to lose it, because I mean it's ours. It would be nice to have. So, and that's one of the limitations of sati. You know, when it can give you so pleasant abidance in a way, and this like can maybe allow you to stay in this pleasant experience without going further, without investigating it, without developing our wisdom. Because in the end, that's what matters. Yeah, like now I sit and meditate or stand or walk or whatever, then I develop my sati, and then I change, I go to the work, I go to like meet with people, all this bliss and state of mind can go. Yeah, so I again start to interact with the people, I start to interact with world, and yeah, it's kind of all my defilements can come back. But if while my sitting or walking meditation I develop some wisdom, I saw the phenomena in the mind as impermanent, as not me, not mine, then next time when I meet people, when I see some anger arise, there is more chance for me to see, okay, there's anger and it's not me, not mine. It just things what arise because of some condition. Condition change, things change. So it will help me to have this distance from all the experience what can otherwise drive me for some action. I can maybe say something harsh word back, or I can even punch the wall. Yeah, maybe when people angry can happen. So yeah, long story short, one of the way to see limitation of mindfulness, of the establishment of mindfulness, it would be that without right view and without like investigative aspect, like vipassana aspect of practice, it can lead so far. It cannot lead up to the end. It cannot help me to develop wisdom. It can have a very good foundation, definitely, and I would say necessary foundation. But again, mindfulness alone is not enough. So another way, another thing, another thing to reflect from the sutta, which we need to understand the limitations, which we need to develop, of course, and understand limitations. It's Noble Eightfold Path. We all know these things, I hope. Yeah. So it's starting with right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood. What else? Right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. I thought it was 8. I didn't count. So yeah, I think these things we can hear on almost every Dhamma talk, and this is the core things of the Buddha's teaching. We know these things. But in this sutta, Buddha saying, in this sutta actually, it was some arahant nun, she said. It was not the word of the Buddha. And it has mentioned that we need to understand limitations of the Noble Eightfold Path. So it's a totally different area, yeah? Like one thing to understand limitation of mindfulness, another thing to understand the Noble Eightfold Path, which lead me to awakening. What possibly limitations can be there, yeah? Something wrong with the sutta, maybe, yeah? It's like so it's definitely something to reflect on, because knowing the limitation of, let's say in this case, Noble Eightfold Path, or like any Dhamma aspect, we can actually we can develop better. Yeah, we can avoid some holes, avoid some dangerous place where we can like stuck or fall down. So again, many ways how to understand it. One way would be to understand that in Noble Eightfold Path, if we take this teaching alone by itself, if we don't consider whole Buddha's teaching, it's maybe not enough for some to understand the cause and effect relationship. Like these things that we need to observe our experience, our phenomena, that maybe like in how things arise, how things pass away, yeah, and things are conditioned, like all things are conditioned phenomena, or even deeply see dependent origination, yeah, how like ignorance arise, like what's ignorance, because of ignorance something else arise, and so on. So, and even the principle of the dependent origination. So with origination of these arise. With cessation of these, that cease. So things are conditioned. And other aspect of the Buddhist teaching which are helpful to understand, which are helpful especially for develop some vipassana insight and so on. So it's always, someone, I think it's very often people ask, oh Bhante, what is your favorite sutta? Not even like this. Can you mention a sutta which I can read only one sutta and I can get everything from the Buddhist teaching? So people kind of, lazy people who don't want to read whole Buddhist teaching, want to read only one sutta and get everything. And so far, I also asked this question from senior monks, and there was no complete, like, one sutta which really have all aspects of Buddha's teaching together. We can find some sutta maybe in Digha Nikaya which just mention by the name each aspect, like this Bodhipakya Dhamma, yeah, like element of awakening, or so they're just names, but we need to explain each of them. We need to explain in details a lot of practices, and it would be just looking like this, like maybe one sutta we just have a names, and each names have a hyperlink, hyperlink to another sutta which explains things. So it would be like this kind of, I would say, compilation. So, and again, why? Because only one aspect of the Buddhist teaching would be not enough to cover kind of the whole your spiritual life. So that would be one of the limitations of Noble Eightfold Path. If you believe that just knowing the Noble Eightfold Path, it would be enough for you, for some maybe yes. But you know, from sutta, some need just very little advice. Some people just come to the Buddha and ask for Dhamma in brief, and they give to them, like Buddha give to them like very short instruction, and the person get enlightenment almost like very fast after that. But how many of us like really get enlightenment from one Dhamma talk, from one instruction? Maybe, I don't know. Just I know that I need to hear the Dhamma a lot and reflect on Dhamma a lot and study it from the many different aspects, and hopefully it can be useful. So it's one aspect. To long story short, try to cover many aspects of the Buddha's teaching, then at least you would know what would work for you, what would be useful for your exact condition. Another aspect, the kind of drawback or limitation, and again maybe some story can be useful. So we have here monks, we have here monks and very often we have here senior monks who come to visit SBS, to just come for a few days, and usually we have Q&A session with those monks up there in SBS. So it's like we spend evening, we ask questions, and Senior Bhante answer his answers, and then we again ask questions. So in this case, we have a chance to learn something from his wisdom. And usually it's a great opportunity, because people like with a 20, 30, 40 years of monk experience, they definitely know a lot in this area, and to ask something from them, and it's a treasure. So, but interestingly, that even in those occasions, we kind of conditioned, and if my mind conditioned in certain way, and I expect something from monk to say something or to be someone, and if he not fulfill my expectation, it totally changed my attitude towards that meeting. So, as an example, we asked from one monk the question like, "Oh, Bhante, what do you think about this approach of early Buddhist study or comparative study?" So, as a footnote, there are many texts like Pali text, Chinese agamas, Sanskrit text, like from early Buddhist school, because Theravada is only one early Buddhist school. There are many, and so we now can have all these sources and kind of compare them and see, like, okay, we have Mahasatipatthana Sutta in our text, and we have a similar suttas in their text, and we can put them side by side and see what actually is there or what is not. So it can give us some additional information, what may be more like the more chance to be an early Buddhist teaching, rather than undergo some development with the time, because it may happen naturally with oral tradition especially. So as an additional tool for study it, for investigate it, for find what is earliest, what I may pay attention more, something like this. Or if some sutta give you some interesting, unusual information, and comparative study may help you to understand, okay, maybe this information may come throughout the oral tradition or something like this. So, and yeah, this is a question, like, what's the benefit, and what, Bhante, do you think about this early Buddhist approach? And the monk did answer that, like, we have a lot in our like Theravada tradition. We don't need to search outside. We just have like our sutta, our commentary, our sub-commentary, and you kind of study Pali and you just read your own tradition. Don't go outside. So it's a valid answer, and it's very conservative answer, I would say. But somehow my mind didn't accept that answer, So I thought, no, and because of my not acceptance, I actually had a question to ask this Bhante, like some interesting question. But because of that reaction in my mind, I decided not to ask him. I decided, oh no, I'm not happy with this answer. I would not ask him another question. But actually later I reflect on it. This was this was a drawback. This was my like bad in a way, because actually I can ask some question to learn from his wisdom. Of course, I don't have to accept it by faith. It's just one of the perspective. but to be able to ask, to use this opportunity, because this was only one night. Like later, like next morning, he just departed, like went to some other place. And who knows, maybe he would never come to SBS again. I would never see him. But just because of my displeasure on account of his answer, or in another word, because I was so attached to my perspective, like how I think things should be done, some approach towards the Dhamma. So another person thinks differently, I immediately feel, okay, I don't like this person, I don't want to ask more questions from him. So, and this actually, with this story, I want to tell another drawback of some approach towards the Dhamma. So to perceive or to cling or to attach to my perspective as a, like something ultimate, or as not a tool for me to achieve the goal, but as something like, you know, something complete and holy by itself. So you know, they always give the simile of the raft, in this case, when the Buddha says the Dhamma need to be understood as for the purpose of crossing over this like ocean of samsara, crossing over beyond the suffering, rather than for clinging, like to attach to it. So here it speaks about exactly, I think, this kind of clinging. When I cling to some perspective, cling to some understanding, and when someone says against it, I don't happy with him, with this. I'm kind of fight with this because I cling to my perspective. So this is, I think, even more. I mean, these disadvantages of this approach we can apply to anything. It can apply to Noble Eightfold Path. It can apply to Satipatthana. It can apply to 7 factors of awakening. Yeah, it can apply to all aspects of the Buddha's teaching. If I cling to it, if I take things as something like, you know, not a method, not a tool, but something what I really attach as an idea, or as a religion, or as a like highest ultimate truth, without even realizing myself this ultimate truth, I already attach to this truth. Oh, this is truth. But actually, what do I understand about this truth? Like before my realization, I just have a like what texts say, what my limited experience show me, what other people say. So this information kind of it's not complete information. From this information to jump to conclusions that this like this or not like that, it would be too early. So, and I think this approach, it's very healthy and beneficial for, again, any area, and not only the Dhamma, like any area of your expertise. If you like have your job, you like run a shop, or you driver, or you like do whatever, some financial work. So in any area, like there are some limitations of my understanding in the area, and if I'm not open to kind of suggestions, if I'm not open to different perspective, I would never learn. I would kind of be stuck in my understanding. Yeah, one thing, I would be always argue with people and feel uncomfortable when people bring up their opinion, and another thing, I would limit myself in growing. I would not grow. I would not like learn something from other people. So there are limitations. So again, like to take the thing as a method, to understand that the Dhamma or any other things, it's a tool for the purpose. Like in terms of Dhamma, it's a tool for crossing. It's a tool for going beyond the suffering. In terms of any worldly skill, it's a tool to earn some money, I don't know. Or it's a tool to like travel from A to B. Or it's a tool for some means, yeah? But it's not the thing what I have to cling. Like I cling to this car, and I like this car, like this is the only car what I will ever drive, you know. But then after next year, like this car broke, or some other car pop up with much more better functionality. So you need to be a little bit flexible, understanding what's the purpose of this tool, or this like practice, or whatever. So long story short, what we discussed today. We discussed that there are benefit in honestly and sincerely understand and see the drawback of any practice, of any maybe not drawback, but limitations would be better word. So because some practice can lead us so far, yeah, and also some approach towards the Dhamma. Like if I cling to the Dhamma, it can limit me as well. So it's good to know it. And again, like with a clinging, sometimes it's kind of important to honestly maybe cling to the Dhamma or to understanding, especially at the beginning when I have some wrong ideas and like when I have some like baggage from my past experience. When I come and it's good for at the beginning to like for deeply understand something. We may say like yeah to become attached to the Dhamma, to kind of to hold it, to like really, because if you want to read the book, yeah, you need to hold it. I cannot read the book when it's down there. I can hold it, I can open it, and then read it. Yeah, and then let go of it when I read it. So there's the stages in any experience, in any like education in a way. Yeah, and again, keeping it open as just another perspective. In that exact sutta, the Pali word for this, seeing the limitation, as a Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi translated, the Pali word is Pariyanta Dasavi. So the one who see, and Pariyanta can be translated in many ways. Like can be translated as an end or limit or conclusion or the border. So it can be the one who sees the limit, or it can be the one who sees the end. So it's totally different perspective. Yeah, I see where this practice lead. So I see what's the purpose or what's the destination of this practice. So if we understand that the translation would be like this, then you may forget all this half an hour talk what we just discussed. So yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate this, that we need to kind of keep our perspective open. And whenever we study Buddhist teaching, there are different ways to translate some terms, different way to interpret them. So we just take, like whenever we hear some Dhamma talk, we in the end just ask ourselves what I learn from this Dhamma talk, what I can apply to my practice, or what I cannot for now. For now, just put aside something what I cannot, and just accept and take what I can. So yeah, I encourage you to investigate your experience, but in the same way to stick with the practice what you choose and what you find is kind of useful and beneficial for the goal or for the means what you want to attain, and in the end be free from suffering. So we can now